queue up my presentation and want to check in with everyone. Are you able to see the slides, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, we can see them.
All right, outstanding.
Eric, why is your profile picture that?
Why is my profile picture what?
Never mind.
Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about presentations. I want you to feel free to ask questions as we move through. We're going to keep this informal, so I want you guys to have fun throughout the presentation. I'm going to be asking you questions because I want you to participate. I'm also going to ask that if you have the capability of turning on your video cameras, that you go ahead and do that. One of the things that you want to do as a speaker is to be able to connect visually with your audience. So you guys can help me out a lot by letting me see your faces. So if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and turning on your videos if you have that ability so I can see your lovely, fresh morning faces. Eric told you a little bit about myself. I'm going to give you a few more details so you can know more about who's talking to you today. So I've been in the professional space for just over 20 years now. I attended the University of Virginia. There I was actually the vice president and the student body president during my tenure. Since graduating from the university, I went into the Army, became an officer. I was a field artillery officer, and I was a nuclear, biological, chemical officer. So what that meant was I learned how to blow things up for a living. I used to do a lot of handling of nuclear, biological, and chemical materials. And I used to plan warfare around those materials. And so that, becoming a nuclear, biological, chemical officer was not something I really wanted to do. I was happy just being a field artillery officer. But that actually was the foundation, ended up being the foundation of what I do now. So it was kind of a lesson in life of, when life presents an opportunity that you may not really want to take, you need to be open to it because you don't know how it can set you up for the future. So after I left the Army, I started my own business. I also started working as a general manager for a major retail operation. And in starting my business, I started consulting on weapons of mass destruction. This was right after 9/11. So people needed to talk to experts that understood, how weapons of mass destruction worked. And because I had that training in the Army, I was a natural person, a natural expert for people to come to. And because of that when I was doing that kind of work, Booz Allen actually asked me to come and work for them, to do that work for them. So while I was in the Army, I was also in the 82nd Airborne Division. So, fun fact about me is I used to jump out of airplanes for a living. I'm blessed to be in two organizations with my father. We are both members of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, and we're both members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So as you progress in your collegiate careers, you'll have an opportunity to join fraternities. My favorite fraternity is Omega Psi Phi, so I would encourage you to look in that direction. But there are other fraternities out there if you're interested in that kind of life. But then when you graduate from college and you start getting in your professional life and you start living a life of achievement, of successive achievement, you'll have an opportunity to join organizations of distinction, and that's what Sigma Pi Phi is. This is why you want to master the skills that Dr. King teaches you all now so that you will position yourselves for a lot of success and achievement and all the things that come with that. So any questions about my background before we continue? Okay. So what I'd like to do is quickly, I want to go around the room, and I'm using the room in a virtual sense. And I'd like to ask each of you to, introduce yourselves. Tell me your name, the grade you're in the first college or university of your choice. And if you don't have one of those, then tell me your role model. So right now I see Kai Montgomery popping up first on my screen. So I'm going to let you go first. and I want you to say it with your chest, all right? I don't want anyone being shy today because we're going to be practicing our presentation skills throughout. So Kai, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Kai Montgomery. I'm a rising 10th grader, and I'm not sure what college is on my list yet.
Okay, who's your role model?
My dad.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, who wants to go next? How about Jason? Jason, I think you might be on mute. Yeah, Jason, we're having a hard time hearing you. And this is why we're doing this, right? Because it teaches us how to be fluid with the different types of technology out there. Okay, Jason, we can't hear you, but you can go ahead and put it in the chat, and then I'll look at the chat and see if I can read it out for you. How about Emmanuel?
Hi, my name's Emmanuel, and I go to Forest Park High School. I'm a senior, and my first college choice is VCU.
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. George?
Hello, my name is George. I'm a rising 9th grader. I'm going to Osborne Park High School, and I don't really have a list of colleges yet.
Okay, so who's your role model?
I'd say Jeff Bezos.
Oh, okay. That's a good role model. Guess you want to be a billionaire, huh? All right, so Nigel, you're up.
My name is Nigel Moore. I'm a 12th grader, and my first choice is VSU. I already
Okay. So Nigel, are we boring you?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're laying down. I don't want you falling asleep on me.
My phone. I'm not going to sleep.
Okay, thank you. All right, how about Malik?
Is my camera the right way?
You can lean your camera back a little bit more. We're seeing your chin.
Oh.
Okay, that's better.
It's a really big glare.
Yeah.
My name is Malik Epps. I'm in 7th grade, and I don't have a college yet.
Okay, who's your role model?
My mom.
Okay, that's a good one too. Thank you, Malik. All right, how about Alexander?
All right, hello, my name's Alexander Oriana. I'm a senior at Garfield High School, and I actually no longer have a college list because I'll be attending Johns Hopkins University this fall.
Congratulations. Outstanding. That's what we want to see. My wife actually went to that school, so if you ever need some advice, you can reach out to Eric, and I can put you in touch with her. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, Ron? Is Ron available to do his introduction?
Ron is one of the parents.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I thought he might be sitting aside. Okay, we'll move on. How about Nicholas?
I just look young.
I'm actually VCU alumni. I help out Dr. K as COO in training. I help out on the weekends wherever I can, and he's training me in every aspect possible.
All right. Thank you, Nicholas.
Yes, sir.
Gideon?
All right. Hi, my name's Gideon. I'm a senior at Garfield High School, and I'm not quite sure what college I'm going to go to because I got accepted to a couple. I'm not really sure.
Okay. Well, tell me one of them.
One of them, I got into Virginia Tech. I'm waiting for William and Mary. I got off the wait list.
Okay.
So, and VCU. So I'm waiting for which amount of money I'm getting. Probably go there.
Okay. Congratulations on your acceptances.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Have we done Joshua yet?
No. Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm a rising sophomore at Osborne Park High School, and I don't have a college yet, but my role model is Barack Obama.
Okay, that's a good one too. Thank you. Derek.
My name is Derek Kane. I am in the 8th grade, and college that's on my list is UVA.
Ah, you're after my heart. Well, let's keep in touch, Derek. I want to see you get into UVA.
Okay.
All right, Andre.
Hi, my name is Andre. I'm a freshman at Manassas Park High School, and the first college on my list is VTech.
Is what school?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, okay. All right, who has not gone yet? Ahmad?
You unmute. Oh, okay. My name is Ahmad Bangura. I'm a 9th grader at Garfield High School, and the first university on my list is George Mason.
Okay. Outstanding. All right. Nicholas?
I just went.
Oh, you just went. Okay. Damien? Okay, we'll give Damien a second to get connected. Raphael?
If they're talking by phone, they might have to hit *6. I think if they're on the phone.
Okay. Jalen?
Hi, my name is Jalen Blanche. I'm a rising 9th grader at Hilton High School, and my first college on my list is Carnegie Mellon.
Oh, okay. That's impressive. I appreciate the deep voice, Jalen. It's going to get you far in life. Zion?
My name is Zion. I am a 10th grader at Potomac Senior High School, and the school I want to go to is North Carolina A&T.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zion. Devon?
My name is Donovan Reed. I'm going to 9th grade. I have no college list, and my role model is my mom.
Okay. Thank you, Donovan. Appreciate you getting your technology working. Devon, can you go? How about Courtney? Okay, how about Lewis? All right, did I miss anybody that could speak?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Probably my thing for this one. Hello, my name is Owen James. I'm currently a senior, and I feel like the college part is a little easy. I just so happen to be repping. I'm trying to go to Hampton University. I'm all dripped out. I thought it was pretty simple. It wasn't playing, but you know.
Right. Well, congratulations. That is the school where my father met my mother.
The real HU bow down.
That's right, the real HU. All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your introductions. I know you all probably weren't expecting to speak today, but I wanted to get the blood pumping I do intend for this to be an interactive discussion. So let me, I'm going to resize you guys on my screen so I can see the slides. So what I want to do today is talk to you about some things. The way my presentation is set up is that we're first going to talk about techniques for building your confidence. Then we're in relation to conducting your presentation. Next, we're going to talk about building your presentation, like the nuts and bolts of what it takes to do that. Following that, we'll talk about giving your presentation, like actually being in front of the room and commanding presence and making sure people are receiving the information that you're attempting to impart. And then last, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about being your brother's keeper. And I know that may seem strange in the context of our discussion today, but I think you'll understand when we get there. So our training objectives for today. So this is what's going to guide and shape everything that we're talking about. So I already told you how the presentation is broken up, but these are the objectives we're focusing on. So by the end of our conversation, we want to build your personal confidence in your ability to crush your next presentation like a boss, okay? So I'm not talking about just getting up there and getting through it, okay? I'm talking about getting up there and dominating the room and, you know, walking off the stage like you just did the thing, okay? So that's what I want you guys to feel like after our talk today. Next, I want you to be able to understand the components of building a well-structured presentation, like how to put it together. I want you to develop awareness around successful presentation techniques and skills. And then I want you to learn how to avoid typical presentation mistakes. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Any questions? All right. So let's talk about techniques for building your confidence. Can everybody tell me who that is on the right?
Kobe Bryant.
Black Mamba. Black Mamba.
That's right.
All right.
Would you say he's a confident individual?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. How do you think he got that way?
Hard work.
Worked hard and he believed in what he did.
So I hear work hard, belief. Belief is truly a powerful thing, right?
Yeah,
if you don't believe in yourself, you can't accomplish anything. What was that?
He said goal for himself.
Yep, he said goals for himself. So when somebody said worked hard, what was he working hard to do?
What was the question?
Be the best basketball player you can be.
Be the best basketball player. So what were the things that, when you said he was working hard, what things do you think he was doing?
Going to the gym, studying the game, and just looking at the people who know the game well.
Exactly. He was studying the game, he was going to the gym, he was building his body, he was doing what?
Shooting, putting shots up.
He was practicing, right? He probably practiced more than 99% of people that ever pick up the ball. Okay. So in order to get great and to be confident in what you are doing, you have to do the things that make you great and confident. So that means practicing, that means studying, that means getting in the gym, right? So when giving presentations and becoming really great at presentations, the way you get great and the way you build your confidence is to do it as many times as possible. So when your teachers in school ask, you know, who wants to come to the front of the room and tell me something about X, Y, and Z, you want to be the first person to raise your hand. You know why? Because it's an opportunity to practice, right? School is nothing but a training ground. And a lot of times, you know, we worry about our peers snickering or, you know, making fun of us if we make a mistake. But guess what? School is just training. Real life is the show. That's the deal. That's being on the court, right? So when you graduate from school and you're in real life and you're standing in front of a CEO and you're giving your presentation, that's where all the practice, all those opportunities of having chances to present comes into play. And the evidence is right there in the moment, okay? So I want you guys to, yeah, go ahead.
In your definition, what do you think confidence, what do you think is the difference between confidence and being arrogant?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the difference of being confident and arrogant is, I would say humility, right? arrogant is a lack of humility. And when I say humility, being people who are not humble are people who brag a lot. People who put other people down to put themselves up. People who can't acknowledge ever making a mistake. People who are not open to feedback and are not open to people telling them how they can do things better, right? So being confident is knowing that you're great at something, but not having to tell people about it. Being understanding that your ability will demonstrate the quality of your work on its own. It will stand on its own. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you probably heard the expression exude confidence, right? That means just be. In who you are being every day, people can just see it in you. You don't have to tell people I'm the greatest. You just are. Okay? All right, so you guys know who this kid is?
President.
That's little Gideon.
Yes.
President.
Little Gideon.
Oh yeah, that is little Gideon.
But yeah, I know who that is. I forgot his name though.
Yeah, so you guys remember how this kid just showed up on our social media, just kind of blew up out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And
Isn't that kid president?
That's right. It's the kid president. And look, he ended up in the Oval Office with the first black president, who is the most powerful person in the world at that time, right? This little kid did that in a matter of months. How do you think he did that?
Posting a whole bunch of posts on Instagram.
But what about his posts got people's attention?
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and how he spoke, how he carried himself as a young kid.
He was confident, right?
Yes.
I mean, that kid had man-sized confidence, right? And I think that's one of the things that, I acknowledged about him was this kid is fearless. He can get in front of anybody and do his thing. I mean, he was in the Oval Office, out talking to the president. If you guys go back and Google that interview, and you'll see Obama having to stop and laugh and trip on his own words and reactions to some of the things the kid was saying to him. So, as you guys wanted to show this to you so you can kind of think about, a tangible example of a person who at a very young age demonstrated, such a high degree of confidence that he was able to move from his living room and get into the Oval Office. And if this kid can do it, there's no reason why any of you can't. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I ask you all questions, I'm looking for responses back, right? So
Yes.
if I want to check in with you and I say, does that make sense? I'm looking for a call response, right? Okay, so let's talk about how to technically build your confidence. So the very first thing you can do is do your research. I can't overstate the value of doing your research. When you do your research, you know what you know. You're not speaking from opinion. You're not speaking from what someone else told you. You're not speaking from something you saw, randomly on social media. You know that you did the research and you know that what you're saying is factual, okay? So spend time to do your research. Then you want to review your content and start memorizing your prompts, okay? And so prompts can be visual things, they can be questions, but they're kind of things to kind of keep you oriented in your presentation. So you've heard people talk about landmarks with giving directions. So that's what prompts are. You want to kind of create some landmarks in your presentation to help guide you. Next, you want to practice your presentation. You want to practice it with yourself. You can practice it in front of a mirror, and you can practice it in front of a friend. Okay. So by practicing your presentation, what you're really doing is actually programming your brain. So just like you program a computer and you start teaching a computer language when you start putting in code, you're just doing the same thing with your brain. So it's not about, oh gosh, I got to take this time to, go through my presentation and talk to myself. It's not about that. It's about training your brain around the presentation that you're going to get. And that's going to give you a level of proficiency and make you look like an expert. Next, you want to visualize yourself giving your presentation, right? So when I say visualize, I'm talking literally closing your eyes, imagining yourself in front of the room, imagine yourself walking in front of the room, and actually giving the presentation of your life, right? And then I want you to imagine yourself being victorious at the end and that feeling, when you just crushed it like a boss, right? And if you do that, that is going to help you when you get up there, give your presentation. Next, I want you to have unquestionable belief in yourself. Know that no one knows the presentation better than you. And the reason for that is because you wrote it. No one else did. So no one else knows it better. And then lastly, I want you to use your superpower, okay? And you'll probably see very few presentations that talk about this. And it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or if you're a Muslim or if you belong to another faith, but draw on the power of the universe and pray, okay? Prayer will always get you through. Everyone always gets nervous. There's no speaker that never gets nervous before giving a presentation. And so the one thing that you can draw on that's outside of yourself is prayer. And I will tell you, anytime I'm going in front of a CEO or, going to be talking to a room full of people, I take a moment to reach out to God and ask for strength to see me through that presentation. So don't be afraid to do that.
Howard, when you are, how can I, this, Howard, this is Dr. King. When you are visualizing yourself giving the presentation, you also imagine the kinds of questions that you may have to answer as part of your presentation?
Certainly, that's definitely a good point. I do try to imagine the hardest questions that people are going to throw at me. Or I try to think about the holes in my presentation or the soft points in my presentation. I try to build presentations that don't have holes in them. But sometimes you're forced to, depending on the type of presentation you're providing, you're forced to really step on a limb and offer a solution that you may not know all the answers. You may not understand all the pitfalls. And so therefore, there might legitimately be some holes in it or some soft points or points where somebody can try to attack it and devalue or undercut your presentation. So I do try to think about those and visualize those and prepare myself for how to respond to those things. If you do that mental preparation, you won't be caught off guard when it happens. You'll actually expect it when it happens. And there's nothing like deflating those types of questions or attacks with a smile and confidently answering those questions. So thank you for that, Dr. King. Any other questions? Okay. So I want to ask you guys, which person here looks like they're here to talk about hip hop?
The one on the right.
The second
one on the right. The second.
To the right.
It depends, really.
All right. So which person here looks like they're here to talk about $1 million proposal?
The one on the left.
To the left.
Okay. So why is that?
Just for success.
The way he dresses.
It's the way it's the way he dresses.
Okay. What about
They're
his dress?
dressing the part.
It shows
Okay.
what city.
So I heard dressing the part showed that he's successful. Somebody said something else?
Can the person on the left also talk about hip hop too?
No.
We're just saying what they look like they're gonna do.
I mean, looks can be deceiving though.
A lot of people who pitch $1 million would wear something like that on the left.
Okay. Yeah, so the
Fake
point of this
diamonds.
slide, what was that?
I said fake diamonds on the guy on the right.
Okay, well, let me ask you guys about this picture. What does he look like?
Oh.
Well, if we didn't know him, like
Wait.
if we didn't know him, then it's like he could be talking about anything. But now that we know him, he could be talking about business or, you know, business or rap, or like rap
Yep.
is business, but like he could talk about anything other than business. If we know him, because we know him now.
Yep. Okay, so you guys gave really great answers. So let me talk you through this slide. So yes, 50 on the right, he definitely showed up wearing his body armor, his chains, bandana. He looks like a hip hop artist. So if you want to present yourself like a hip hop artist and you're going in to talk to an audience that's a hip hop audience, that's what you want to look like, right? But if you're going into a business corporate setting and you want to pitch $1 million proposal, you want people to trust and invest in you, you need to demonstrate and look like you know what to do with $1 million, right? Like the guy on the left. But there are people who have transcended, right? Their reputation precedes them now. And so those people can walk into any setting and look any kind of way they want, and they can talk about whatever with confidence and with people believing what they're saying, right? So in most cases, our reputation doesn't precede us, right? There comes a time in your career where in certain circles, your reputation may precede you. But in most cases, unless you have the stature of Jay-Z, who was one of the first Black millionaires in hip hop, if not the first, where he has established himself as a businessman owning multiple businesses, unless you're somebody with that reputation, you need to ensure that your presentation, your personal presentation, represents you and is germane to the topic that you're going to be speaking on. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So now I want to check in with you guys. I want to see what you've been learning so far, okay? So what is the first thing you should do to build your confidence?
Do
Practice.
research.
Know your research.
Do your research. Outstanding. So what can you do in front of a mirror to build your confidence?
Practice. Do a dry run.
Practice. Go through your
That's
whole
right.
presentation.
Practice your presentation. Okay, blank yourself giving your presentation.
Visualize.
Visualize. Outstanding. A boss presenter always what? The part.
Dresses.
Dresses.
Dresses or looks the part. Okay. And then what's your superpower?
Imagine your presentation was the best.
Nope.
Prayer.
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 Don't forget, right? Prayer is the number one thing you can fall back on at any time in your life, at any time in your career. It's not just for church, or it's not just for mosque or for temple. It is for your life. And you don't even have to be religious to pray, okay? Draw on the spiritual power of the universe, okay? It will always help you pass your fear and nervousness. So next, we're going to talk about building your presentation. So in building your presentation, I want you to consider some various components. You want to be thinking about the type of audience. So we just kind of covered that in terms of looking the part. I want you to think about any technical constraints. For example, will you have a microphone? Will there be a computer in the room to run your slides? Or will you have to use paper to guide yourself through your presentation? Will there be a video camera in the room? Are you going to be recorded? You want to be thinking about those things so you can kind of consider how that might change or alter your approach. You want to be thinking about the seniority of your audience. You want to be talking to the right level. So you don't want to be talking to an audience of 80 or 90-year-olds about Jay-Z, right? because they probably won't know who that person is, right? So you want to make sure that your content is suitable for the audience that you're talking to. Conversely, if you guys wanted to teach a presentation to a bunch of third graders, you don't want to be talking about calculus, right? Because they're going to have a hard time getting it. Here are some general design tips for developing your slides. You want to manage how much space, how much content you add to your slide. So in my profession in consulting, we call that managing your white space. So your white space is like all the space in between the content that's on your actual slide. You want to try to use graphics and icons and videos and pictures to illustrate your points. And this is because people learn differently. You all may have noticed, you may not be conscious of this, but you all may learn better. Some of you probably learn better when you are able to see your teacher. Some of you can still learn when you are heads down and you're taking notes. You can still understand and comprehend what the teacher is saying. But some of you, when you start taking notes, you may be challenged in receiving the information that the teacher is giving you. Some of you may get bored watching somebody stand in front of a room talking all the time. And the use of a video that breaks that up might help you stay focused, right? So you want to try to structure your presentations in ways that speaks to everybody and keeps everybody engaged as much as possible. Now, sometimes you'll be limited by your media. Like, for example, today, we're on Zoom. So initially, when I had planned this presentation, there was going to be a lot of interaction with us in the room. So I had to alter and tailor my presentation away from that. But the reason that I was going to do that is because I know from my professional experience that when you are learning information and then you have to apply it, you learn it even better. Okay. So we are going to look for time somewhere down the line where we're going to do some in-room training where each of you are going to have a chance to actually put these skill sets into action. On the right-hand side of my slide, I've put some icons there, and you can see how each of those icons kind of helps to articulate the bullets that are right next to it. So those are called visuals, and those are things that you want to do to kind of pull people into your presentation. But as far as presentation platforms, you can use things like Microsoft PowerPoint, like I am here today. You can use platforms like Prezi. Prezi is like PowerPoint, but it uses pictures instead of words to tell your story. And it's more of a storytelling platform. If you ever want to solicit feedback to questions as you go through your presentation, you can use a program called Poll Everywhere or Slido. And those are both programs that can help you do that. And I would encourage you guys to go online and do research on those. And if you want, try to integrate that into your presentations. We've already talked about presentation enhancers, videos, music, pictures, graphics, and icons. And then you want to definitely plan your audio and video aspects to your presentation. Like we talked a little bit earlier, will you have a projector? Will you have a microphone, yes or no? What kinds of connections and ports do you need to bring to help make sure that you can connect your laptop to the system that's in the room that you'll be presenting? Or if you need to send your slides ahead of time, So let me talk to you about today. Today, I did a practice run with Dr. King at about 8:15 this morning.
How can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
For how, when people are preparing their presentations, should they imagine should they remember both good presentations and bad presentations that they've seen, and then look at some of the things that really attracted them, motivated them, and engaged them, so they can include those types of tools and explanations in the things that they're doing. For example, I know that sometimes people do a presentation and all there is a bunch of written text on the screen, and then the presenter is just reading that text to them. and that's always very, very boring. Then other times people show lots of pictures and videos and other types of things like you're talking about here, and those seem to be more engaging. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying, what types of memory should they use when they're deciding what the proper presentation tools are to be?
Yeah, so I think I would preface my response to that question with a story. I used to do a lot of sales and marketing, and I had a really tremendous mentor, and he was like the best presenter I've ever seen. You know, and I used to I was trying to do my best to present like him, and I felt like I was always falling short. I felt like I could never quite present like he could, the way that he could. And one day it clicked in my head, and I understood that it's not about presenting like him. It's about me figuring out how best to present for myself, right? My talents are different than his talents were. My presentation is different than his presentation, just in life and so, as far as who we are. He was a very talkative, very loud person. You know, he always wanted to be the center of all the attention. My answer to that question is yes. You want to understand what works for other people, and you want to figure out how you can leverage that in your own way, right? And be able to pull that into your presentation. So when you see people do things that's really successful and gets real positive reaction in the room, definitely feel free to steal that and make it your own. But notice I said steal it and make it your own. Don't try to do it exactly how that person did it. Do it in a way that makes you feel comfortable in its delivery. Does that answer your question, Dr. King?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So getting back to the point I was making about the audio video, one of the things I did before our presentations, I got with Dr. King, and we did a practice run to test the technology to make sure that it would work so that we didn't have any technical issues throughout today's presentation. And one of the things that we noticed was we were having some sound challenges. So it told me I needed to break out my microphone. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this microphone plugs into my cell phone, and that instead of using the audio on Zoom, that I should use my phone to facilitate the audio experience for you here today. So that's the power of using, the tip that I gave you earlier in terms of practicing. You want to make sure that you prepare your technical presentation as well as the content. Any other questions before we move forward? Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what if you're giving a presentation and things don't go as planned? Does that mean you have to improvise, or what do you do?
So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. So I want to ask you to hold on to that question, and if I don't get to it, bring it up at the end. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Gideon.
Wait, I have a question.
Yep.
What exactly is a white space?
So you see this particular slide here?
Mm-hmm.
So you see the distance between this set of bullets and this set of bullets and this set and this set? So everything is kind of spread out on the slide. It's not all clumped together or running into each other, right?
Okay.
So it allows you, the viewer, to see things in a way that's neat and in a way where the information is coming to you in a way that it makes sense. So all this space where there's nothing here, that is what we call white space. So you want to make sure that your slide, so you might hear people say, only put 3 bullets on a slide, okay? I will tell you that is really, really, really old school advice. In the professional world, if you have 3 bullets on the slide, people are going to look at you like you don't know how to use technology and that you're not proficient at PowerPoint and you're not a good presenter. Okay. So what we say now is manage your white space. You can put content on the slide, but you want to make sure the content makes sense. And you want to make sure that it's spread out, and you don't want to overdo it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about structuring your presentation. So one of the first things you have to do is really define your purpose. Are you there to inform, or are you there to entertain? Are you there to persuade, or are you there to inspire? So if you're there to inform, that means you're going to be providing a lot of factual information, statistics. You're going to be basically constructing an argument on whatever it is that you're trying to convey for people. If you're there to entertain, you're probably going to want to use a lot of visuals like videos and jokes and memes, and you want to be funny in your presentation. You want to be upbeat and whimsical, and have create a lighthearted atmosphere where people can have fun with you during your presentation. If you're looking to persuade, you got to be thinking about all the reasons that you could be wrong, all the things that we call objections that people might throw at you to challenge the argument that you're creating, and build in the answers to those objections so that people can't even ask them in your presentation. And if you're there to inspire, you want to really come from a space of inspiration, right? You yourself should convey that you're inspired. So you want to, I would suggest that in building your presentation, you want to do a lot of meditation and a lot of prayer and really get centered, and think about how you want to speak into people's inner selves. And you want to really think about what is the goal, what is the aspirational goal that you want to get people to accept and adopt in their life. So each of these types of presentations, each of these purposes are going to shape your presentation in ways that I just talked about. Does that make sense to everyone?
I have a question.
Sure.
So it says pick one or a combination of two, but can't a presentation fall under all these categories?
A presentation can. I would say that you're probably going to be more challenged in delivering a presentation that has to do more than two of these things. So, for example, if you're trying to do a pitch, oftentimes a pitch includes informing your audience to basically, you want to be able to create the world view. You want them to accept the world view that you see, and then you want to persuade them on the solution that you're offering. Okay, so that's an example where you could have a dual purpose. But typically, you don't want to, if you're trying to persuade someone, you don't want to waste time entertaining them or inspiring them. You might have a bullet or two or a slide where you may choose to entertain somebody or to inspire them. Sometimes inspiration can be very helpful when you're trying to persuade. But a lot of times, once you guys get into the professional world, people are very, very serious about their time, especially very senior people in their careers. And sometimes they don't even want to see your presentation. They'll interrupt you and say, I have 2 more minutes. Tell me what you want to tell me. And you got to be able to adjust and just do that. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. So earlier we talked about your audiences. You want to think about, is it academic audience? Is it a professional audience? Is it a younger audience? Is it a general public? When I say general public, is it just a mix of people? You want to think about the demographics. Is it an all-white audience or is it an all-black audience, right? Sometimes, if I'm in a room, I was on a panel 2 months ago where I was talking to young black professionals. So that meant that I could tailor my conversation as a black professional to what it's being like to be a young black professional. So I could relate to my audience in that way. I can't do that if I'm in front of a full all-white audience. I can't have that relation on being black and being in corporate America. So you got to think about your audience, and no matter what your audience is, you want to be able to try to relate to them, but you got to think about who's in your audience. How sophisticated are they? How educated are they? What's their world experience? How familiar will they be with your presentation? Are they going to be even interested in it? Or are you going to have to create some interest in them? Do they speak English? Or is English their second language or their third language? You know, because depending on the audience, if they don't speak English very well, you may have to slow down your conversation or use smaller words, right? Or will some of your audience have hearing or vision impairments? You know, I have a rule for my people. Like if you're speaking to a room more than 20 people, you have to use a microphone. I feel like it's just insensitive to people because people can be elderly. You have a lot of veterans in the audience that may have, you know, suffered hearing loss. I mean, it's just people who are hard of hearing. So be sensitive to your audience and use microphones whenever possible. Next, you want to define your objectives. Presentations are just like writing a paper. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you need to have objectives that are going to help you get through your presentation. So think of it like a roadmap. Spend your time really shaping and thinking about your objectives. You want to, as you start developing your presentation, you may find that you're kind of straying from your objectives a little bit, which means that, you know, maybe you have other things you want to say. So then go back to your objectives and revise them to make sure that they're in alignment with your content. And then make sure when you present your presentation that you actually show your objectives up front at the beginning, because you want to tell people what you're going to tell them before you start to tell them in your presentation. So on this slide, I provided you an outline for how to structure your presentations. And this is just an outline. This is an example. You guys can definitely deviate from this, but I wanted you to walk away with something that you can actually use the next time you're asked to do a presentation. So you can see here on these three boxes, first you want to tell people what you're going to talk about. So that's your objective. Then you want to tell your audience the message. And then you want to tell them what you just told them. And that's your wrap up. So you do your introduction. You want to build credibility and rapport with your audience. And then you want to personally connect with them. So when I was telling you all about my life story, that was me trying to connect with you and let you in as to who I am as a person, right? And then I gave you my objectives up front, right? So I kind of told you what we were going to be talking about. Right now, we're in the message. I'm giving you all my points. I'm giving you all my supporting references and evidence and content to support what we're talking about. And then when we get to the end, you'll see me do my wrap up, okay? And so you can see here, I gave you some, like a time breakout, ideally, and this doesn't always work, but ideally you want to shoot for 5% of your time, you know, on the first set of your objectives in your introduction. The core of your presentation, approximately 80% of your time, and then your wrap up, which also includes questions, 15% of your time, okay? So a strong and confident introduction gives your audience some type of awareness for who you are, like I just mentioned. You know, you definitely want to build credibility, and you want to spend time emotionally connecting. So you can see here in this graphic, you know, if you can do confidence and credibility, but you'll be here and people still won't care. Or you can be confident and you can connect, but if you have no credibility, people aren't going to really listen to your message. And if you connect, if you have credibility, but you look like a shy person, you know, hovering behind your lectern, people aren't going to be listening to your message, right? So you really want to be in the middle, you know, and like this is a Venn diagram. So you want to be in that core part where all those different things intersect. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's do another knowledge check. What is the first thing you should do when structuring your presentation?
Research.
Research.
Research. And define objectives, right? That was a tricky one. All right, so name the 4 basic purposes of a presentation.
To inform,
entertain, persuade, and inspire.
Outstanding. Some of you guys are taking notes. I can see it. All right, objectives provide a what for your presentation?
Guideline.
Almost.
Outline.
Almost.
Pathway.
Roadmap?
A roadmap. So outline, pathway, those are acceptable answers, but it provides a roadmap for you, okay? All right, so based on your purpose and objectives, develop a what for your presentation?
Outline.
Outline, exactly. Good job, you guys. You're doing really well. All right, so let's talk about giving your presentation. So I want you all to look at these pictures and tell me the emotion that you feel from looking at these images.
Kinda inspired.
Empowering.
Empowering. Okay. What else?
Kind of like some type of like motivation.
Do these people have your attention? If they were standing in the front of the room, would they have your attention?
Yes, because they have a lot of weight to their name.
Yeah. So this is what we call the power of body language, right? There are things that you can do that exudes power and causes people to focus in on you and to defer to you. So this person down here, this woman down here, she's giving a TED Talk, and the body position that she is in right now is actually called the mountain pose, okay? So she's standing up straight, her arms are by her side, and her head is up and she's looking directly at you. And we don't really understand when people are doing this when they are doing this. You know who else is a master at this pose?
Who?
Donald Trump.
Okay.
I want you guys, when you see him, I want you to watch how he stands. He will always stand like he is the biggest person in the room. Like he is the only mountain on the horizon, okay? So you don't want to stay in this position throughout your presentation, but you want to try to start your presentation in this position, okay? But what that's going to do is going to draw everyone's focus and attention to you. And you want to just stand there confidently, and you want to scan the room, and you want to smile. And you don't have to speak. But in that moment, what you're trying to do is connect with each and every person in the room by looking at them, looking into their eyes, okay? And you want to do this for about 2 to 3 seconds. If you do it much longer than that, it's going to come off as being weird, okay? And when the president does it, it does become weird. But I want you guys to start thinking about how you use your body language and, using broad sweeping gestures to get people to understand the points that you're trying to make. And, you can see in President Obama, when he is making a point, he always does this. You may see other politicians or people doing this, right? You may see some people doing this, and you may see some people doing this. But use body language as something that's going to help drive your message. But don't use body language. Yes, go ahead.
Howard, I hate to jump in. We're going to have to wrap up maybe in a couple minutes because it's after 10:30 now.
Okay. So I'm going to advance through a little bit more quickly. So you can see the people on this slide, they're talking with more of an inspirational message. And so you can see the kind of gestures that they're using. And so these are kind of people who are trying to make points. So there's a couple things I want you guys to think about when you're giving your presentation. I want you to use your senses, right? So you want to be listening, you want to be looking at people and observing what they're doing, and then you also want to use your intuition. Your intuition is going to really help tell you what people are feeling in the room. And you might see that people are trying to, they're getting nervous or they're getting restless, and it might be time to call a break. And so you want to be leveraging that as you are actually conducting your presentation. You want to be a master of your presentation. So one of the things I like to say is facts tell and stories sell. So use stories in your presentation to help deliver your message. I'm going to skip past lowering your expectations. We talked about body language. This is very important. I want you guys to work on eliminating fillers in your presentation. So using words like, right, okay, you know, like just pause and collect your thoughts and say what you're going to say. I like to say, pause, breathe, and then focus on what you want to say. Couple quick tips: never stand in front of the presentation. When people ask questions in a room, take a couple steps towards them to address their question, and then back up, but don't turn around and back up. Continuously scan the room. Be flexible in your presentation. On this slide I'm showing you, there was a time when I was in Dubai giving a presentation, and the audience asked if I could do it in Arabic. So we had an Arabic set of slides, so I had to actually give my entire presentation in Arabic. So I had to, because I knew my presentation, I was able to do it. So you never know when you might have to do that. One of you asked, what about when things go wrong? So we call that Murphy's Law. And Murphy's Law says that anything that can and will go wrong, it will go wrong. So you're going to have people like the sniper. People are going to try to like purposely trip you up. You're going to have the unwanted panelist, the know-it-all in the room. You're going to have the black cloud, someone who just has nothing but negative energy. And you're going to have the class clown. All these people are going to be there to disrupt you. So you want to try to, expect that these people are going to be there and be prepared for dealing with them. When you get people, you want to bring them into your conversation, ask questions, make them do introductions like I did with you all. And right now you can see I'm in my no huddle offense. I got the call from Dr. King that we're running low on time, so I'm having to condense my presentation. I'm going to my no huddle 2-minute drill, okay? So you want to be prepared to do that in your presentation. You're going to get people who are going to help you from time to time. When they do that, you can let them say what they're going to say and then just press on with your presentation, right? Don't get tripped up on them. Thank them for their input. Offer to talk to them offline at the end of the presentation, and you'll hear them out at that point in time. I'm sure you guys have all been asked that question by your mom or by your teacher, and they told you something that they asked you something that that you should have known. And you have this dumbfounded look on your face. Well, that's going to happen in a presentation. Someone's going to ask you something that you probably should have prepared for. Don't give this expression. Just acknowledge, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get you the answer. Let's talk afterwards, and we'll figure out how to get you that information. So I want to skip this last knowledge check, and I want to talk to you about one other thing, and that's being your brother's keeper. You guys know that it's hard getting in front of the room. When you're in front of the room, like you're totally exposed. Everyone can see what you're doing, every mistake that you can make. So part of being a good presenter is supporting someone else when they're giving their presentation. So that means listening, being a keen listener, participating in their presentation. When they're asking questions, you're answering questions. When they're asking people, how many of you have been through this experience and they put their hands up in the air, you participate and you put your hand up in the air. You smile, you connect with them, you let them know when they're making good points. And you ask questions and you respond to questions when prompted, okay? I promise you, if you do that for your friends and for your professional colleagues, they'll do it for you and they'll help you in your presentation be an even better presenter, okay? So with that, do we have a couple, 2 minutes for questions, Dr. King?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll entertain questions for 2 minutes. Yes, go ahead.
Well, when you're giving a presentation, what happens if you lose your train of thought?
Yeah, so that's going to happen, right? You guys couldn't see this, but I had all my slides right here printed out, okay? And you see I have notes on those slides. In PowerPoint, you can actually type your notes. So I printed a 2-slide view, but you can print a notes view where your slide is at the top and your notes are down here at the bottom. So you can actually type in your notes here. Some people use index cards. and they write down their main points. When I talked about the prompts earlier, so your landmarks in your presentation, those are the things that are going to help you from losing your place. Some people have an outline of their presentation and they just have that sitting there and they use that to help guide them and keep them on target. When I write my slides, I use the content itself helps keep me on track with respect to my voice track. So one of the things that we talk about in our business is you have the slide content, and that's what's on the slide, and then you have your voice track. And your voice track may address some of the points on your slide, but it may also have supplemental information that's not on that slide. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes?
So say you're trying to avoid words like and how long do you want to pause?
I would say, so there's this thing called a power pause, right? So if the room is getting really loud, you just get really quiet. You just stand there and just look and smile. And eventually, because you're doing that, you will draw their focus and energy and attention to you. And now you have the power again. So you can use a power pause in that moment, and people won't even realize that you forgot your place, or you forgot what you're trying to say. Or a simple 1 to 2 seconds, and then continue what you were going to say. You know, when we use those filler words, they are, one, it's inherent. You'll never 100% eradicate it from your talking, your speaking, but you want to be conscious of it, and you want to consciously work on removing it. And, you know, I ask people, when I present, I want you to count how many times I use one of those filler words and tell me at the end of my presentation. I invite people to do that because that helps me get better. You guys should all do that for each other from now on. One more question? Okay, well, I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to come to you in this space today. I think it's absolutely outstanding that you're dedicating yourselves to this type of enrichment at an early age. I promise you it's going to make a difference in your preparation and in your future. You will use these skills when you get to college. You will have to present. And the more you do it now and the more you do it in college, the better you'll be in your professional life. So I will provide a copy of today's presentation to Dr. King. He can send it out to you all. If you have other questions, you can send it to him via email, and I can provide a response. But again, thank you for your time. I hope you all learned something today, and good luck in the rest of your studies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.